Now, it doesn't really matter if you've got a powerboat or a sailboat. Raw water pumps are all pretty much the same. They're going to use rubber impellers like these. And in fact, this one from a fairly large powerboat engine, this one probably from a sailboat engine, have lost all their blades. And this is really the reason why you want to maintain your water pump, check it periodically. And we're going to walk you right through the procedure for taking it apart, inspecting it, and replacing a water pump impeller. Okay, this small pump, this one happens to be made by a company called Oberdorfer. They make a lot of raw water pumps. You can see that it's pretty new. It's a bronze casing. Yours probably won't look like this. It'll have green corrosion around the case, but it's going to be disassembled the same way. We've got a flat cover here, typically anywhere from 4 to, oh God, it could have 6 or 8 screws holding it in place depending on the size of the pump. We're going to take the screws out and get a look inside. Now, one of the things you have to be concerned with the inside of these pumps, and one of the things you need to inspect carefully, is the very thin paper gasket that seals this cover. And if you're offshore and you actually run into a situation where the gasket breaks when you take the cover off, which is a fairly common problem, you can make a replacement gasket, if you work carefully, with a sheet of paper. It's about the same thickness, around 20/1000 of an inch thick. Very similar to a regular note paper, or the page out of a paperback book will work. You also want to inspect this cover very carefully for any signs of scoring, and if it is, you can actually fix it, at least enough to get yourself back to port, by taking a piece of wet or dry sandpaper, setting it down on a glass surface, and rubbing it to resurface it. You can get it good enough. The clearances inside these pumps are very critical for them to produce maximum volume. Now, the impeller is shown here, and you'll notice the blades are bent over, and it really is designed to be that way, because what happens is these pumps work on a sort of a variable volume principle, and the surface inside the pump is not perfectly circular. You'll notice a flat right up here, and that's what actually compresses the blade as it rotates and gives it sort of a snap action to pick up water, carry it around, and push it out the other end. The way this particular impeller blade is oriented, you should be able to figure out that its normal rotation is in a clockwise direction. Now, to get the impeller out, you have to remember that it may have a snap ring or circlip here that you'd have to remove. Typically, you can pry those out with a small screwdriver or even a Swiss Army knife blade. They don't have a lot of tension on them, so you may have to get that one out of the way before you can slide the impeller out. This one doesn't have it. Now, the easiest way to remove these is to take a pair of screwdrivers and carefully lift up simultaneously with both sides until the impeller comes off its drive shaft. And you'll notice a flat on the inside housing of the impeller, and that's to position it so it can't spin on this shaft. Once you get it out, it's a good idea to flex all the blades and look for any signs of cracks, because when these break off, they're going to be delivered into your raw water system on the engine, and you're going to have to go looking for those parts, because they've been known to plug water passages and actually cause overheating. So you really need to get those out of there and try and find them. If you're lucky, they'll be lodged right at the output side of the water pump up in here, and you'll be able to find them pretty easily. So if you decide you're going to replace the impeller, which you should do every year or two anyhow, get yourself a new one. What I normally do is take a little dishwashing liquid, smear it on there, fold the blades over, and slide it back down into the water pump housing. Now, the reason for the dishwashing liquid could be to, or is really to, not only assist you in reinstalling it, but also on initial startup, you don't want to damage these blades until the pump primes and gets filled with water. Once you get everything back in place there, just put your gasket back on. A light film of grease on the gasket will help to seal it, and it'll also help to sort of slow down corrosion later on. Put your screws back in place and tighten them up in a crossways fashion so that you pull the cover down smoothly and evenly, and you don't want to risk warping the cover. So you do it very much like this, okay? And then go across and tighten that screw over to here and then up to here. Snug it up, start the engine, check for leaks. If you don't have any leaks, you should be all set to go. That explains simple water pump impeller replacement.